We'll go take two in the Camogie. Mags Darcy, are you there?
How's it going, Joe? How are you getting on? I'm in the Midlands here. Apologies about the connection.
It's no problem at all. Good to have you with us. So we're talking Camogie semi-finals Saturday. A lot of people would have caught them on the TV. We had, first of all, Kilkenny weathering a bit of a storm against Cork in that second half in particular to win out 2-10 to 111, and then Galway, very physical, very strong against Tipperary, 111 to 8-point winner. So once again, it's Galway, Kilkenny in the All-Ireland final. There is a doggedness about Kilkenny, their fifth successive final. Even when Cork were very on top in that second half, they didn't take a backward step, Kilkenny.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. You're not too far wrong in your analysis there, I'll give you that much. Both well contested in their own right, both matches in different ways. I suppose like Cork went ahead there 1-3 to no score, and that was 11 minutes into the first half. And at that stage, you just thought, you know, Cork are really running the ball well here. Kilkenny can't lay a hand on them. They were creating that space inside for the goal for Gemma O'Connor. And you just thought, you know, it's going to be Cork's day. They're in their backyard. Let's have you. So second quarter, after the water break, momentum dropped, swung Kilkenny's way. And Kilkenny, even though they missed a few chances, Joe, to be honest, they looked at a team that were kind of shaken a bit at the start. I feel I was in the press box, obviously up at the top there on Saturday with you guys, and just looking down, I think Kilkenny were a bit nervous to start with. It could have something to have done with Gemma O'Connor starting. There's always a side story or side kind of narrative going on when it comes to tactics with Paddy. So Gemma O'Connor started actually after recovering from a punctured lung, so only weeks ago when that happened. So she started in at full forward, and that meant that Colette Dormer had to come back off the wing and cover her in full. So I think Kilkenny were at 6s and 7s there for a while, but they got a foothold in the game, and they went in a point up. And thereafter then, Joe, you know, they just took the game by the scruff of the neck in the second half, and probably know themselves. They had chances to push on, win the game, but in fairness, Kilkenny, their intensity in the tackle was surreal. They were pushing a Cork's running game out to the sideline, nearly using, you know, that sideline as an extra defender, and you know, they saw out the game for a great 2-point victory.
Like, for people who didn't see it, Cork really did dominate for a good chunk of that second half in terms of possession. Like, ball wasn't really sticking to the Kilkenny half-forward line. Aisling Thompson really came into the game for a period. If Cork are going to be really honest with themselves, Mags, in the off-season, they'll just have to face the fact that their shooting wasn't up to scratch. Like, if they're going to kick on and win All-Irelands, they just missed too many scoreable chances.
Yeah, and it's uncharacteristic of them, and I don't know if they'll put that down to the round robin stages where they felt like they could have been tested a lot more. But even the free taking, I thought, was quite poor, which is uncharacteristic of you know, their set players. You know, you need to be converting 80-90% of those in championship or to get to a final. You need to be at the 90% mark. You know, their shot selection then in terms of range, it was dropping short, and that gives great confidence to the opposition, as we all know, no matter in what sport. So they had momentum in terms of possession. You hit the nail on the head, but they weren't capitalising on it. And Kilkenny grew in confidence off the back of that. And you know, Miriam Walsh turned on the 45 there over in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and you know, she ramped in for a stuck ball in the back of the net, and they grew great confidence in the second half from that play alone. But they were just quietly going about their business, Kilkenny, popping over the points and getting on with being physical in the tackle, winning rucks and turning them over in the middle third. And you know, I know Paddy said after the game, you know, in terms of, you know, the media have been talking about Kilkenny's or Cork's running game, and you know, tactics and having all these set plays and systems is fine. But I think he felt a little bit that the players maybe got dragged into that. Now, having said that, I think on Saturday I've seen them play more direct ball in than I have all year.
Right.
So I don't play to that facet. I just think the execution wasn't there on the day. That would be my opinion, Joe.
As for the other game, Galway won 11, Tipperary 8 points. Look, in last year's final, Galway put 3-14 on Kilkenny, so they've got great attacking days in them when they want. It wasn't that kind of day. It didn't seem like on the TV. You know, their physicality came to the fore. They always looked like they were going to come through this game. I don't know what it felt like in the stadium.
Yeah, look, you're not too far off. It was a dull affair in comparison to the first game,
Yeah.
although it was well contested. But it was contested, say, with duels and battles. The story of the game really was Galway's defence, and of course Sarah Dervin in the back. But at the same time, unfortunately, as well coached as Tipperary are, technically, the hurling ability was fantastic. They were spraying ball to hand, with 15, 10-metre passes and off the shoulder runs, but they were running directly at the traffic of Galway's defence. And as a defender, all day, every day, you love to see that happening. What you don't want Joe, is a ball spread out, 15 yards outside your opposite player into space.
Yeah.
And Tipperary didn't use that wit enough. I felt if they had brought that wit into the game, they would have dragged Galway's defence out, which they actually did in the first half a lot more.
Yeah, it's a great point actually, because their second point was beautifully worked. It finished with a free. I think I'm not sure who won the free, but she took a hell of a hit. But they had worked the ball beautifully up the pitch, and you kind of saw, well, the skill level is there, but they just kept going up the centre of the pitch. They did have the skill to spread Galway as the point. Like if they had runners making darting runs toward the sideline, there was definitely enough technical ability to find those runners.
Yeah, and you know what? It's an All-Ireland semi-final. They did not interfere, and they went in and they grew great confidence through the game. But I think all they saw, and in any sport show, you know yourself, you're looking at the clock going, I just need to run this ball. I just need to try get into a scoring position. And they panicked maybe possibly a little bit and ran it into where the traffic was held within Galway's defence. Now saying that, Galway were solid in all different areas. They will be disappointed in some aspects, like scoring 111 in a semi-final.
Yeah.
Like semi-finals are there to be won, I'd give them that, but they weren't really tested in defence. In their, Carrie Dolan went off with a hand injury. They're obviously their free taker and set player in terms of pulling the strings. Rebecca Hanley went off. Fascinating again. Aoife Donoghue, I think, is getting younger and younger in the middle of the field. I just would have loved to see her GPS. She was taken off after about 54 minutes. So maybe, Galway knew themselves they had it, but they just weren't being tested. Last Saturday would be a different ball game now in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. On the Carrie Dolan goal, because we've been talking a little bit about this in both codes over the last while. Like, what was really good about that is Galway spotted the overlap and they went for goal. And even, Limerick on Saturday night at one point, there was a definite goal on with overlap and they just took their point. Nothing frustrates me more as the armchair expert. And it was really good to see Galway say, see the overlap is on and let's be cutthroat about this. And, it was brilliantly taken. You're obviously working at all levels of the game and have played at all various levels. We don't see enough of that, I have to say. I mean, a goal, just especially on a day like Saturday, has such an impact, and that was, ultimately that kind of killed the game off in many respects from a Galway point of view.
It did, and sometimes you can be reserved in your shot selection, I should say. At the start of the game, you think, we'll just get a foothold into the game and we'll tip away and we'll take our points. But there's nothing worse than playing a team who go for the jugular straight away. And I think Kilkenny hurling has been evident of that over the years, that they'll nail you when they can. So, that is a sign of a team that obviously have the ability to take scores when they come, but that little streak of ruthlessness, that they're the type of players that you want around you when you're playing on big days. And Kerry took it exceptionally well.
Who has the physical edge between Galway and Kilkenny? It was from afar. It's kind of in two different games. It can be hard to compare them, but they certainly had the edge in their opponents on Saturday. It felt like there'll be big hits in this final.
There will, but obviously, we alluded to it earlier with Tipperary running, ball down direct channel of Galway. Of Galway's defence and even, at times 50-50 balls were going in from Tipperary. They weren't playing it savvy enough, just play it to the outside of your man or a woman to give them the edge or the advantage. So Kilkenny won't be at that. Kilkenny will spray ball, dink ball. They'll pass it wide. They'll keep the weight in the game. They'll find space. So I think the more space that Kilkenny can find, and that will expose not only Galway's defence, but I think it will expose, I suppose, Galway's. I feel there's a little bit of an area there where Galway can be edged. They are very physical, but are they sharp off the turn in the tackle? I think Kilkenny have just a little bit more up front in that means.
Okay. So is to the extent that you see Kilkenny as slight favourites for the final?
Absolutely not calling anything, Joe. I have to have a few more days to think about that. Look, I think Kilkenny have been in the last 5 consecutive finals. They'll, there's a great picture after the game. You had Katie Power there in the stand and all the players over. And, Katie's been through a lot this year with injury. There's a real togetherness about Kilkenny. Not saying that that's not there with Galway, but I think Kilkenny will have great confidence coming out of Páirc Uí Chaoimh beating Cork. They won't be happy with some facets of their game. In the second half, they went without a score for 21 minutes. But to be able to, mentally overcome Cork, because going out to play Cork, Joe, you're playing a tactician in Paddy Murray, and he always has the micro detail down to a fine art. And being able to come out of that battle mentally strong, I think that will prove maybe Kilkenny might have the edge on Galway. Would I like to see Galway do the double? Absolutely. I often like seeing good teams do well. But I think going into an All-Ireland final, Kilkenny have been tested a little bit more than Galway have been last weekend.
Okay. The game seemed to be blown up 2 minutes early, certainly as a TV viewer, because straight away the commentary team alluded to the fact that they thought there was at least 4 minutes left, and then it was blown up in the 62nd minute, I think. It seems the confusion is stemming from the fact that there are different approaches to the water break and different codes. So like in the men's, the clocks are stopped for water breaks, but that's not the case in Camogie. Was everybody in the stadium aware that that was fine, and just us on TV were a bit confused, or were you guys confused in there?
No, we weren't. There was no confusion in there whatsoever.
Right, okay.
I know down in front of me, RT and Martin Morrissey was reporting that the clock hadn't run the full allocation, which was incorrect, because it's funny. I saw a news reporter as well, which I would see at hurling games, and he stood up with disgust and waved his hands at the fact that a Kilkenny player played the hurl, which you can do in Camogie. So there is a variation in rules, obviously, on the field, but there also is at the moment as well within the water breaks. Full allocation of the clock was run, Joe.
Okay.
Those 60 to 90 seconds are taken into account for added time.
Okay, very good. Well, listen.
So there's no news story there, I'm afraid.
I know. I was thinking, were we going to have like an Offaly protest at one stage, because it was all blowing up on TV.
Game over, ball burst. Okay. Finals in 2 weeks.
Well, listen, we might chat to you in advance of that, Mags Darcy. Thanks a million. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Joe. Talk to you soon.